Alrighty, hello everybody. This is Xavier from Golden Fly Shop. If you guys don't know who I am the shop manager in our Golden location. I also am a destination coordinator for our hosted travel program and content creator for the shop. So I wear multiple hats, but happy to do so. And today, I'm here to talk to you guys about one of our hosted travel opportunities for Peacock bass and Payara down in Colombia. This is with float fishing and adventure at their Equani River Lodge. The dates are going to be January 15th to 24th of 2026. So I'm going to kind of get into this and talk about our trip a little bit more specifically here. So down in Colombia, two main targets are going to be the peacock bass and Payara. If you guys are unfamiliar with these fish species, they are two of the most highly regarded fish species in the entire jungle, let alone the world. They are just absolutely cunning fish. They fight incredibly hard, eat big, and yeah, just got some unique characteristics to them. If you see down here on the bottom left, you guys can see a great example of a healthy adult Payara. There are several species of Payara. Um, they aren't classified the best, I would say. I don't see too much information on the classification of these species, but this one here is commonly referred to as the silver Payara, which is the type that grows the biggest. Where we are fishing them, we have the opportunity to catch them of over 20 pounds, which is pretty unique. Then moving on from the Payara, we have the peacock bass. Peacock bass are definitely one of the most popular species in the entire world. People fly halfway across the world to the South American jungle to target these fish. Peacock bass are not a true bass, they're actually a cichlid species, but due to some similarities with, let's say, striped bass and largemouth bass, they got coined the bass token. Which is pretty cool. They fight incredibly hard. They eat really, really big and display excellent coloration and markings across their body. So, in the area that we'll be at with the Equani River Lodge, there are four species that are present. We have, starting with that large specimen here in the top right corner, that is a Temensis. The Temensis is commonly referred to as the speckled peacock bass. These guys have two different coloration spotting patterns. The first one being the non-sexually mature variant. You'll see on this photo here, you can kind of see those speckles going all the way down their body. Their body will be littered with those and will be pale in color. And then once they turn sexually mature, they'll develop those three bars, as you see in that photo. The males will grow a hump on their head and they will grow much more vibrant in color. The fish in that top right corner there is somewhere in between in the transitional stage. So definitely in puberty of the peacock bass world. The other three species, there are many more species of peacock bass in the whole Amazon River basin, but there are three other species that are going to be in the area that we'll be at. The starting from left to right, we have the Orinoco peacock bass, obviously going to be native to the Orinoco River basin, which is where we will be fishing. The second one is the butterfly peacock bass. These guys are found pretty much everywhere that the Temensis is found. These guys have very large distribution. They are kind of the bycatch peacock bass. They grow much smaller, 2 to 5 pounds, whereas Temensis can grow upwards of 30 pounds. So a lot of the guys who are spending a lot of time flying down to the jungle don't love catching a peacock bass, especially since you have the opportunity to catch them in Florida and Hawaii. But still, very aggressive, hard fighting fish. So it's a great little bycatch. Lastly, on the far right, that is an intermedia, also known as the royal peacock bass. These are the guys that don't grow quite as big as the others, but have beautiful markings. So it's kind of cool. The cool thing, when you guys are targeting the big two species, while down here, you have the opportunity to still catch five species in itself, four peacock and a single Payara species. So the other fish now that we'll talk about. there are many, many other species down in the Amazon River Basin. And I thoroughly like to talk about these because I think it's something that um, I think everyone should at least target for a little bit. I personally say the variety is a spice of life. If you guys are going to an area that is so rich in fish diversity, why wouldn't you want to catch more than just peacock bass and Payara? Seeing a bunch of cool different animals that you don't get to see anywhere else in the world. You're spending all that time and money. You might as well, right? Um, Kind of talk about some of the more common other species. Again, I don't really like calling them other species because I feel like that's demeaning. All these fish are special in their own regards. So, anyways, the top left, you guys can see a great example of a silver arowana. They are closely related to the mighty arapaima. These guys breathe air. They live up on the surface. We'll be catching those guys. If we find groups of them, we'll be able to catch them on large terrestrials, poppers, other topwater patterns. Right below that is a red-tailed catfish. Obviously, just like any other catfish, they are a bottom dweller. So if you guys do end up throwing bait or so happen to have your fly low enough in the water column, you guys have the potential to run into those. When we're fishing for Payara, we have the opportunity to catch a sardinata, which is directly next to the red-tailed catfish photo. Sardinata, as you can tell, they kind of look like a shad, kind of look like a tarpon. Tarpon are in the shad family ish, distant cousins, but have very similar features. These guys eat big streamers, they go airborne, they jump, jump, jump. And the cool part is they kind of see his hands are spread out rather far on the fish. That is because their entire belly is actually a single razor blade, essentially, that stops predators from eating them when they're at a small age. So, pretty unique, kind of funny that, the fish can be dangerous outside the water. There are obviously some examples, such as piranha and Payara, with their teeth, but there's very few times where the body will actually cut your hand open if you're not careful. So, anyways, moving on from that guy, down below on the bottom left, we have the Matrinxa. This is a Pacu piranha relative. We'll get them on large terrestrial patterns on the surface as well. Moving to the right, black Pacu. This is a world-class size black Pacu right there. Anybody would be very, very lucky to catch one that size. It's kind of a feather in the cap catching a big black Pacu. So we have the opportunity to catch something like that. And then over again, we have the shovel nose or tiger shovel nose catfish. They also call them cerubi or cerubi. I don't know how to pronounce it. But another catfish species, bottom dweller. They seem to be caught a little bit more than the red-tailed catfish on fly gear. So that's kind of cool. There's two other species that are also commonly caught that I don't have photos of. The silver croaker, it is a drum relative. It kind of looks like a silver redfish living in the Amazon River. And then we already talked about it a little bit, but piranha. There are several piranha species down in the area that can actually be annoying, chopping off the back half of your fly and getting rid of your stash quicker than you would like. So, but definitely cool to catch them. Just when they ruin flies, then that's where people get mad. So this is, like I kind of alluded to before, this is an excellent opportunity if you're looking to target multiple species more than just two different types. If you guys are trying to, chase Jeff Courier's number or something like that, this is a excellent area because the Amazon River Basin boasts the world's richest fish biodiversity by far in any freshwater environment. And even in the saltwater, it outweighs most saltwater environments. I think there's only 3 saltwater environments that have a richer fish biodiversity, and those are obviously all in or tropical regions, coral reefs, stuff like that. So it's pretty unique, just having that opportunity to target this many different types of fish. Plus, even if you aren't looking to actively target them, but you just need a little bit of break during the day, this is, casting big peacock bass gear, fighting peacock bass, if you're having a really good day, targeting Payara, stuff like that. this is a good break to throw some lighter gear in general. Obviously, the catfish, maybe some of the large pacu, you have to still throw heavy gear. But something like the matrinksa and arowana and sardinata, it's a good opportunity to just throw some lighter gear, give your arm a break, and still enjoy the day. So, anyways, let's talk about where we're going to be targeting these fish, right? I think that's very important because this is not all in the same exact location. You're not going to be stuck in the same river all day, um, more or less, right? Let's talk about it. So we're going to be spending 2 days fishing for Payara on the Orinoco. That is the picture on the left. That's the Orinoco River. It is the size of the Mississippi, but has tons of raging rapids all along it. And this is exactly where the Payara like to live. So as you can see in the photo, there's a gentleman standing there on this steep rock casting into the swift water. That's where the Payara like to hunt. So yeah, standing on these big boulders, targeting these guys that are sitting in fast, dirty water so they can ambush their prey. This is also where we have the opportunity to catch some pacu and sardinata as well. So that's for 2 days. That's in the middle of the trip. And then when we're fishing for peacock bass, we have 4 days, 2 days up front and 2 days on the back end, sandwiched into the Payara 2 days. This is going to take place on the Vichada River and its lagoons. Most of the fishing won't be done on the main stem of the river because peacock bass really like slow moving, not a lot of current type of water, right? So you can see in the photo on the right, this is a very, very tight cover. This is actually where the type of area you would not be fishing just because all that overhead stuff. Don't care how good of a caster you are, you're not going to be able to fish there very effectively unless you have spinning gear. Plus, that's not that far back into the lagoon. These are actually the types of areas where that's the mouth of the lagoon starting. Some of the areas, are only an X amount of feet wide, and the guides will be up at the front of the boat with a machete chopping off sticks and limbs, breaking away for us to get into these big lagoons that open up on the back end with very little current, shallow water where the peacock bass like to reside. So that is a pretty cool area. Certainly something unique that you're not used to seeing. Usually when you see a lake back home, there's a body of water. Instead, you're going back on this big old river, and then there's a tiny little channel like this big, and you're going to squeak on through it, and then it suddenly opens up. So these lagoons are created during the high season when there's a ton of rain, the forest is flooded, carves away, and then as it recedes in the dry season, which is when we'll be there, then the fish, they don't necessarily get trapped back there. They actually prefer to be back there, but it makes it easier for us to fish for them because they do like to go back into the trees where the bait fish and all that and cover is. So it gives us an opportunity to more readily access them. Now, moving on from that, gear is a very important thing, right? We're not trout fishing on this trip. Everyone knows they're 9'5" weight and is comfortable with it, but when you're spending all this time and money, it's very, very important to talk about gear. And everyone hyper focuses on it, including myself, right? So we're going to try and make this very simple for you. Peacock bass, 8 to 10 weight, 8.5 foot to 9 foot rods that are specifically built for saltwater or streamer applications. You need a stiff backbone to, for one, be able to cast easily all day, but also to fight these fish effectively. A lot of all water rods, that's kind of your more trout specific rods. They don't have a ton of backbone, so fighting big fish can get a little bit cumbersome. You see that it says 8 to 10 weight rods. 9 weight is probably the one size. If you're just going to have one size with you for peacock bass, that's the one. 9 weight rod. Simple as that. Your fly lines, just kind of like I alluded to with the rods, they need to be specific for like tropical saltwater environments or jungle environments. They need to have a tropic rated coating and a tropic rated core so that, for one, your coating on your fly line will wilt up. A standard fly line used in Colorado, bring it to a tropical environment and it's going to turn into spaghetti and it's almost impossible to cast. Not fun at all. So there's stiffer coating on these tropical rated saltwater jungle lines that can withstand the heat and cast over and over and over all day without ever wilting up. And then they also have a stronger core. So with that, we're fighting these big, heavy fish. Fly lines are bound to break, but having a slightly heavier core can prevent that a little bit, which is super nice. The one line series I'd recommend, you can see the photo there. I have it right here in front of me. That's the Rio Warm Water Predator series. They have 4 lines within that series. They have a full float, an intermediate tip. Here I have the Sync 3 tip, and then there's also a Sync 7 tip. It wouldn't be a bad idea to come down with all 4 of those lines. If you're really trying to minimize yourself to say 2 lines, I would bring the floating and the Sync 3 tip. If I don't want to throw poppers or don't think I need to, then just bring the Sync 3 tip down. But having at least a backup within that lineup is very, very good. So don't just go down with one fly line. If you're just going to bring a Sync 3 tip, bring one more just in case, right? Because again, these are big, hard fighting fish. Gear gets broken all the time from them. So have a backup fly line because a trip can easily be ruined if you don't. Talking about flies, you're going to see something online from a lot of people that they like to throw these big 6 to like 9-inch flies for peacock bass. Okay, that's awesome when you're sight fishing in particular environments when these peacock bass are on beds. But what happens when you don't have the opportunity to sight fish for them on beds? Then you're blind casting these big old flies all day over and over and over. And again, I don't care how good of a caster you are, that gets really, really tiring really fast. So the people who actually go down on these trips, the guys who actually run lodges and are locals, they tend to throw smaller flies, 3.5 to 6-inch baitfish flies. The reason being is, for one, it's much easier to cast all day. But 2, a peacock bass is an aggressive fish. So whether they're 2 pounds, whether they're 20 pounds, or anywhere in between, they will happily eat a 4-inch fly just as willingly as they would a 8-inch fly. Doesn't matter their size. Again, 2 pounds, 20 pounds, they're going to eat that fly regardless because they're aggressive. They got to eat, eat and survive. So they're going to eat a smaller fly, and it's easier to cast than keep casting that all day instead. So some patterns that are very, very recommended, probably the most popular, are going to be flash tail whistler. That is this guy here, if you guys can see that. Yep, that is a flash tail whistler. That's probably the number one overall fly. Probably trim off a little bit of this flash so you don't attract too many piranhas. A deceiver, number 2, this guy here. This is just one of the colorways, of course. This is the big fish version. This has a heavy 3/0 Tiemco hook on there. And then 2 I don't have with me are the EP Dorado and Amazon Special. And another is the crease fly. So if you want to throw top water, this is as you can tell, very, very slim fly. So it's very easy to cast all day, but still makes a ton of noise to get those peacock bass going. I say more. The reason I say more, obviously, there are more patterns that are highly recommended. Klausers, half and halves, bunch of just super lightweight stuff like 2-tone brushies and more EP style flies. One fly you see pictured on the right is the MFC bunker bait in perch. That is one that is kind of more quiet bait fish pattern that a lot of people don't know about. I have a customer, he travels everywhere and anywhere in the entire world. He just got back from a trip recently, and they were fishing every single fly out there. And really, the 2 flies that were working for them were this guy. This was number 2. And number 1 was that MFC bunker bait in the perch variation. That is absolutely, if that gentleman is willing to talk about a fly, I will listen to it, because he's usually not one to talk about flies as an important aspect, but that was just an absolute game changer for his trip, especially when the peacock bass fishing was tough. So duly noted with that. If you guys are going to bring down a box, don't bring down 20 different patterns. Bring 5, 6, 7 patterns and load up on them, and then just find the confidence within those flies. You don't need to bring down 20 different patterns and figure out this, and this, because eventually you're going to find one fly that works, and then you only have 3 of them because you brought 20 different patterns. So refine your box, 5, 6, 7 patterns, call it good. Yeah, Moving on, Payara. Payara are one of the hardest fighting fish in the entire world, freshwater and saltwater, pound for pound. They are a hard fighting fish. For one, they live in current, but two, they're just made of pure muscle and hatred. Uh, they're an insane fish. You're fishing these guys with 10 to 12 weight rods, beefy sticks. I mean, you're literally using tarpon rods for these guys, and they weigh a fifth of what you're targeting, for those big migratory fish. So it's pretty unique. You're going to be doing the same style rods as the peacock bass, 8.5 foot, 9 foot, saltwater streamer specific. Don't need to talk about that again or the fly lines again. But the type of fly line you'll be using are full sink lines. This is the SA Big Water Taper in 500 grains. This is good for the 11 or 12 weight. This would be the line. If you're going to bring one combo, like I said, a 9 weight for peacock bass, for Payara, the one setup is going to be an 11 weight with a 500 grain sinking line. That's pretty simple. That you need an 11 weight for one to fight the fish, two to cast these heavy sinking lines that are going to get you down in these heavy rapids and currents on the Orinoco. And you're also, I don't have any with me. Let's combine these two together, right? 8 to 12-inch flies, big flies with two hooks. You're essentially musky fishing for these guys, but if you are able to get in the right seams and fish your fly correctly, unlike musky fishing, you get a little bit more action from the Payara. The most difficult part with these guys is obviously casting the big gear, but two, hooking them. They have very bony mouths, so you're using big 6, 5, 4/0 hooks, strips setting hard, and hoping the current helps you out a little bit on that hook set. So you can see on the bottom, this is that is a specific fly. I don't remember if that's from Orinoco Flies or PayaraFlyFishing.com, but those two gentlemen make Payara specific streamers with two hooks, some tandem, some tube style, which is pretty unique. These guys make flies that are light enough, but big enough in profile to get their attention and catch these fish, but not too heavy where you're going to blow your arm out after a full day of fishing. So that's pretty straightforward. Payara, the other species, having a 6, 7, or an 8 weight, same type of rod. I put a little asterisk on there though because sometimes having a trout style 6 weight would be a good idea when you're throwing these terrestrial patterns for, say, the Matrinksa or the arowana. You just need a little bit more touch on them and not pull the hook out of their mouths. So for your 6 weight, I would say a trout style would be a good idea, which is what I'll be bringing down with me is a trout style 6 weight because I do want to catch some fish, arowana and Matrinksa on some terrestrial patterns. Same thing with the fly lines, match up accordingly. I would say for a 6 weight floating, because you're planning on throwing terrestrials for those guys. For your 8 weight, have a sink tip, for the sardinata. Pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. Small bait fish and large terrestrials. Already talked about that. Moving on, the lodge. The lodge, that is something that a lot of people ask about because we're not spending every single hour up on the boat or on the Orinoco. We're actually going to be sleeping somewhere. So this is, you can see in the top left photo here, you can see the open air bungalows at the lodge at a small hill looking over the Vachata. You can kind of see in the photo on the right, this is an open air bungalow. So it's hard to get AC in the middle of the jungle. Surprise, surprise. So without running the generator all night, which is still not very reliable, especially in the middle of nowhere, they designed these open air bungalows to allow air cooling, wind to blow through to actually make the temperature within these bungalows a little bit cooler than the outside, which is really nice. You can see nice, comfortable beds. They have showers, all that kind of stuff. And then on the bottom left, something that a lot of people don't talk about, but food. Food's always a good thing. You're in the middle of nowhere. You might as well be eating good, right? Some may say that getting in the middle of nowhere, having good food can be tough. Well, not so much here. These guys at Afloat, you can kind of see one of their appetizer trays there. Very simple, but delicious. These guys take care of you. They know that, as traveling anglers, we maybe have some higher standards. Not all of us are going to say that we do, but it's still nice to eat good food, right? Especially when you're spending so much money. So even though they're in the middle of nowhere, they're going to take care of you. They're going to have beer. They're going to have wine. really nice accommodations as far as lodging, food, drinks, beverages, all that kind of stuff. Um, Now, getting there, this is something that I feel like is very, very important to talk about for a little bit because people tend to worry about getting to South America, rightfully so. I've heard personal stories of Bolivia or Guyana or Brazil where getting there is way too expensive for one, and two, getting into some sketchy scenarios, getting on too many flights, so on and so forth. So the round trip flights from Denver to Bogota are surprisingly cheap, right? It's $500 to $600 is your average. That is your average. Now, obviously, if you fly a little bit nicer, they cost more. If you like to ball on budget, a little bit less. But the average is $500 to $600, and that only is 2 flights each direction, right? So we're gonna fly from Denver to Houston, and then Houston to Bogota. Simple as that. 500-600 bucks. That's cheaper than my flight back home every single Thanksgiving to go see my family, which is insane because the flight's an hour, whereas this is obviously a little bit longer of a flight, but much further is really what I'm getting at. So once we land in Bogota, this is where a float really starts to take care of the Golden Fly Shop crew. Everything is encompassed in the price once you land. And what I mean by that is if you're getting food in Bogota, you're on your own by that. But the hotel nights are fully catered in Bogota by a float. We're going to land. They are going to pick us up. A float is going to pick us up from the airport, take us to our hotel, which is included in the cost of the trip. And then in the morning, they're going to pick us up again, take us to the regional airport. And then from there, we're going to hop on our domestic flight to Puerto Enarata from Bogota. That is also included in the cost. And then we're going to grab us again, bring us on a boat, and then take us to the lodge from there. And then flip it around at the end of the trip, boat, domestic flight, hotel night, and then your international flight. So essentially, what a float fishing does is you get yourself, and we're going to set up, the correct itinerary for you. You get yourself to Bogota based on our recommendations. You're in their hands from there on out. Obviously, food in Bogota is not taken care of because it's a little bit difficult to set that up for you. But as far as any scamming or fishing, they're going to take care of you to avoid anything like that. Obviously, most of the people coming down there, at least from America, that is, speaks English. And this is a Spanish-speaking country, so booking a hotel, booking domestic flights, there's a lot of times where you book the wrong thing, you get yourself on the wrong website, things just don't end up the way they should, and you're out of a little bit of money. So instead of making things confusing for you, get to Bogota. Float fishing is hands-on from there, pretty straightforward, which is awesome. All included in the costs again, except international flights. The rest of the travel is taken care of. So here are some frequently asked questions that I've gotten from talking to people about this trip, from those who are going on the trip already. Number one is, how many will I catch a day? Well, this is just like any style of fishing. That really depends on you and your presentation, right? If, say, you're out trout fishing, blueing olives are going off, and you have the right fly, but it's dragging on the surface, the fish aren't going to eat your fly. But then somebody else is going to have maybe a fly doesn't match the hatch as well, but then it's drifting perfectly, and he's catching fish over and over and over. It's about your presentation and not the actual pattern itself, which a lot of people tend to focus on the flies. That's why I said before, 5 to 7 patterns, keep it simple, focus on your presentation. So that really depends on you and how many you're going to catch. That said, conditions are ever changing. I mean, just like here too, there's different weather storms, there's different pressure systems, anywhere and anything in between. Things are volatile to change. So don't expect every single day to go out there and crush it. A lot of people have these expectations when they go on these trips that, hey, I've traveled this far, I've spent this much money, I'm going to crush it every single day. No, you're not. This is a trip just like you are at home. Some days at Clear Creek, you might catch one fish. Some day you're going to catch 30. That's just the way it is. So still having the capability, fishing hard every single day, presenting your fly correctly, the odds are on your side, even on a slow day. And that being said, let's say every single angler on the trip can fish the fly the exact same. A slow day is 1 to 3 fish. Sometimes that just happens. An average good day is more so 8 to 12 fish, which honestly for peacock bass fishing, hooking into Payara, so on and so forth, that is enough to keep you well occupied, your arm tired, and overall just a fantastic day. 8 to 12 peacock bass is enough to make, I mean, the most skilled angler very, very happy. And then an amazing day, let's say the conditions are perfect. You're in a perfect lagoon where there's just fish everywhere and they're blowing up on everything. You can catch 20 plus fish, and that's enough to have your arm fully sore and just sleeping good the rest of the night. And that generally, when those days happen, the next day, that's where people go on and target other species because they're so tired that they want to just maybe target some smaller fish and have a little bit more fun. Not that peacock bass aren't fun, but having arowana and matrinxa coming up on terrestrial patterns is very different. It's very cool. Tipping. This is not America. 20 to 30% is not expected. 10 to 15%. Straightforward. Next one. Are the bugs bad? Flat out, yes. I can't, nobody can lie about that. You're in the jungle. Duh, bugs are bad. But if you've been to Alaska, if you've been to the mountains in Colorado, if you've been, anywhere where bugs are just bad, it's essentially the same thing, right? If you're willing to do something to manage it, you're not going to be completely ridden. Thousands of people live and go to Alaska every single year, and same thing with Colombia. So nobody has a big problem as long as you're willing to put on bug spray, or you have a sun shirt, a gaiter covering your face and your neck, sun gloves, closed toes, shoes with socks. You have that and a combination of it, you're going to be just fine. So don't worry about bugs. Having a couple of the vaccines are a good idea, but they are not required by the country of Colombia. But still, never a bad idea to have those just in case. Another important one that doesn't get talked about enough on these trips is, do I need to be in good shape? And I would say relatively in good shape, but you don't need to be able to hike 8 miles. We're on relatively flat land for at least 4 days a trip. You're going to be fishing on a boat or at least on the bank where, you don't have to worry about wading or anything like that. So for the most part, you don't really need to be in the best shape as long as you're able to stand and fish throughout the day. And you can even sit and fish throughout the day. That's totally fine too. You're on a boat, right? The biggest challenge is going to be climbing on the rocks of the Orinoco, as you guys saw on that photo of the Orinoco River. Those rocks are really, really big. They're steep. The nice part is they're dry, though. So as long as you have good traction on your shoes, you don't have to worry about sliding. But, having the physical strength to keep yourself up can be difficult. That's where the guides come into play, right? If you have less physical capabilities, guide's going to be able to assist to your needs, right? They're going to get you on the correct rock that's easy to walk on, but still is in the right seam to get you on fish. It's their livelihood. This is how they make their living, is getting you guys on fish. So they're going to do everything in their power to meet your needs and get you on the fish. So don't worry about that. I know plenty of gentlemen that maybe not have the best leg mobility, still go out on the Orinoco and catch Payara, which is pretty sweet. Last one for Colombia. This is Colombia specific. Is it safe? Yes. Flat out, yes. My grandma made an awesome statement to me and my wife. We were nervous about a trip a year or two ago, and she said, bad shit happens everywhere, so don't worry. All right, that's fair enough, right? When my wife's catalytic converter gets stolen in our apartment complex, or somebody gets robbed right down the street from the shop, things just happen everywhere. So if you're worried about Colombia in the sense of past decades news, right? Obviously, there was stuff going on in the past, but the past is the past. Let's relate this to New York City back in the 60s and 70s, right before Colombia was getting their bad news. New York City was a crime-ridden, dirty place that people did not want to go to. People evacuated the city. People did not visit the city because it was a terrible place to be. What happened? They turned the place around. Now it's one of the most visited places in the entire world. Same thing with Colombia. They turned that place around, and it is actually the number one most visited country in all of South America. Yes, over Argentina. Yes, over Chile. Yes, over Brazil. Colombia is proven itself to be a very safe country with as many people that are going there in all of South America. If you think about it, really, if it's the number one, the vast majority of people are going to South America. That's where they're going, is Colombia. It's the culture, the safety of the cities has proven itself. One big aspect too is we're not going to be in the city the whole time. So if that's what you're worried about, we're actually going to be on indigenous land where we are far away from everything. We're in the middle of the jungle. The worst thing that's going to happen out there is the wildlife. And that's why the guides are there, to make sure the wildlife doesn't eat you. With that being all said, a float does give you that extra assurance. I kind of talked to you about this before already. They give you that extra assurance of when you land, you're under their wing. They pick you up from the international airport. They take you to their hotel. It's not their hotel, but they work with the hotel. Then they will take you from there to the regional airport, put you on a domestic flight that they will be on as well, and then assist you to the boat ramp and get you on the boat, and they'll be on the boat with you going up to the lodge. So if you are worried about the safety overall, which rightfully so, when you go to any area that is outside of your comfort and your norm, it is going to be a little bit nerve-wracking being there, regardless of where you're at. So totally understand, and that's why a float is there to take care of you. All right, so here's something that, why would you want to travel with us, right? I mean, I could go on this trip and go directly with the lodge. Totally fine. Go with it. Go directly with the lodge. Obviously, when we're talking about these trips, it's our goal to have you go with us, right? I mean, why wouldn't we want you to be going on this trip with us? It's going to be a fantastic time. We set up optimal dates for you guys. We're working directly with the lodge owners, making sure you're getting the best guides, which sometimes, if you aren't a shop or a booking agency of some kind, you don't really have that kind of leverage, right? Especially when you're talking about dates. A lot of time, a booking agent, it's going to be their goal to just fill a date because they have that date available. Rather than with us, our goal is to get you out there when it is the best time because we're with you. So why would we want to experience a bad fishing scenario? Why would we want you to experience a bad fishing scenario? So that's why we're there. We are talking directly with the lodge owners and the managers to get you the best date possible. And if they don't have a good date available that particular year, we're not going on that trip. Easy as that. We want to get you when the fishing is at its optimal tide season, even like the best lodge. So those are all things to consider. And it can be very daunting to book a trip by yourself, which we completely understand. That's why we put hours of our own personal time talking with these guys so we can get you out on these trips at the best time possible. So yeah, that's a big part. You guys don't have to plan anything. Let us do the planning for you. Just talk to us, and the rest of it is taken care of. One thing too that for our way of saying thank you for doing business with us. Golden Fly Shop does sport a free loyalty program, which is good for in-store and online. But in addition to that, if you guys are going on a hosted trip with us, we do actually offer exclusive deals on every single item that you guys are going to need. There's going to be, rods, reels, luggage, clothing, whatever it is. That's just our way of saying thank you for choosing us, because there's a ton of different options to go with out there. But nobody else is really willing to pay it forward back to the customers. So that's what we're here to do. Plus, you guys will never pay one extra penny going with us, because I kind of mentioned before, why wouldn't you just go directly with the lodge? Well, yeah, fair enough. But if you guys aren't paying us extra penny going with us, and you're getting exclusive deals, and you guys don't have to plan yourself, that kind of all makes sense in itself. Plus, I think this is an important point to talk about, because there are many programs out there where if you go on a hosted trip with said person, you're actually paying extra. You are actually paying, I've seen it upwards of $100 to $1,200 that you're paying extra just to go on a hosted trip, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. So that is something that you guys will never see us do. Again, there's no need to overcharge you guys. We are going on an awesome trip all together. So moving on from that, this is going to be our hosted travel program is perfect for single anglers or those who are just with one or two buddies, right? I would personally say traveling alone isn't fun. I've done it myself. I've been in a lodge for a week and was by myself, did not know anybody there, and didn't have the opportunity due to, dinner tables and guiding and the, room accommodations. I didn't really have the opportunity to like I got to introduce myself, but then further conversation really wasn't available to me. So for a long time during the trip, it just was not enjoyable at all. Eventually, at the end of the trip, I was, inevitably able to talk to some people, but for the most part, I did not enjoy it. The fishing was obviously fantastic, but my interaction with the other people wasn't great because I was a lone angler, so I had no one to talk to or relate to, at least initially off the bat. And that's where this kind of comes into play, with these hosted trips. Most people who are going on our trips are solo guys or guys with their wife, their friend, their son, whatever it might be, right? It's one or two people, and then they're coming together with another group of people, which I think is really, really cool because it allows these easy off the bat relationships. And whether you guys are our customers in the local area where, you live in the West Denver, Golden area, that's something that is very, very easy to have some first relationship and talking points with, right? Now, then for the customers who are outside of our greater areas, coming from other states, for example, then you have just, hey, I'm on this trip at Golden Fly Shop. Hey, I'm going to be sitting at this dinner table with them. Hey, I'm going to be rooming with them. Now a conversation is just very easy to take off. So I've seen it direct where it's these hosted trips just create friendships that you wouldn't expect. These people meet each other for the first time, spend a week with each other, and then suddenly you see them in the shop together, and they're getting ready to go fish in a clear creek together and talking about joining another one of our trips. So that's pretty darn cool, and that's why we love doing the hosted travel stuff. So it's great for all you single guys, single anglers, single ladies, those who them and their wife want to go on a trip and don't know where to go, might feel uncomfortable by themselves or wants to take their son, whatever it might be. It's just perfect for that. So now, obviously, this is a slide with questions because I'm planning on presenting this in person with many, many people in the future. But that being said, I do want to keep this slide up though, because in the comments, I do guys want you to put, if you guys do have any questions, if you have any concerns, just want to get some general info that was left out in this, please feel free to fire away down in the bottom in the comments. We'll be happily to talk to you guys and answer everything and anything. And with that being said, we are signing out. Appreciate you guys watching this far if you guys have. And if you guys are interested, please call the shop. Follow the link down below and you guys will get all the information on this trip and then even then some. So we guys, we'll see you soon.